Hi there, this is Gideon with Red Tomato, and I'm here with Jim and Ryan of Wardsbury Farm out in Sharon, Massachusetts. How's the winter going, guys?
I think it's going pretty well. We're having a nice, normal, I think, climate-wise winter. We've had some cold, but it came in a sort of typical way, and now we're creeping out of winter, which is feeling good too.
So, I'm wondering a little bit if you could talk to us about the process of transplanting tomatoes. Red Tomato sells more than just tomatoes, but we know you most for tomatoes. And I'm wondering if you guys could walk us through that process of when you start tomatoes and kind of when we'll see them in the stores. So it's late February now. Is anything happening with tomatoes, or is that not even on your radar yet?
We're getting close. We do 5 or 6 tomato plantings in a season, and we start our first one in the greenhouse the beginning of March, first week of March. So we're getting close to that date, and yeah.
That's coming up pretty quick here.
Cook, and Ryan has just finished our seed ordering, which doesn't sound hard, but we grow 100 crops and or more, and it's a pretty convoluted and process to order everything and be ready with seeds on hand.
Yeah.
For as that season comes, and here it comes.
How do you guys decide how many plants to plant? Like, what's average for you guys, and what does 6 plantings mean?
We have, 3,000 plants or so per planting? Is that about right?
Wow.
It's more than that, a little bit, 4,000 or 5,000. Some of our bigger plantings.
Oh, that's
maybe,
true,
yeah,
yes.
the first one is probably like that. And then, yeah, we get some bigger.
And we'll divide it into cherry tomatoes and regular red tomatoes, field tomatoes, and heirlooms.
Yeah.
Almost a third, and a third, but
Yeah.
some plantings are more heavily weighed towards other things. But,
Yeah.
but there'll be, a dozen cherry tomato varieties and 5 or 6 red field tomato varieties and maybe 20 heirloom varieties in each planting. So
Wow.
it makes it fun.
Yeah. How do you guys decide which varieties to plant?
Well, our primary criteria is flavor.
Yeah.
Of course, that's purported flavor that some catalog is telling you. I consider myself very savvy at reading between the lines, which I think is a skill that everyone who reads a seed catalog should acquire. So you read between the lines, and you still buy varieties that occasionally disappoint,
Yeah.
and some that totally surprise you. So we've now dabbled with hundreds of varieties over the years. We have our favorites that we'll never relinquish, but we also try to squeeze in a new one that might surpass something.
Yeah. Do you guys, when you try a newer variety, are you planting that full scale in the planting, or do you have a kind of test batch set aside?
Usually we do a test batch if we plant, say, 1,000 plants of a certain variety that we know and like. We might only start with 200 or
Yeah.
300, 400, 500 the first season, and if we like it, we generally will expand it the next year.
So what's the process of kind of growing a tomato plant? So you'll start some in early March, next week, and then are you starting your own starts and then going from there? Like, does it go straight into the field? Walk us through that.
Well, we start with, after the seed arrives, we hot water treat it. We treat it in hot water for 20 minutes at 122 to 125 degrees. We're trying to kill any seed-borne bacterial diseases that sometimes linger on a seed.
Yep.
And that's our way of minimizing that bacterial disease. So we start with that, and then after the seeds dry, you would think that would be a very it would disrupt their viability
Yeah.
later, but it doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
So they dry, and then we seed them a few weeks later, and often, like Ryan said, early March, and then we'll continue seeding every 2 or 3 weeks into the end of May. But after seeding, it takes about 4 weeks before we have what we call a plug that's ready to transplant. And so we seed them into a tray, that has almost 400 cells.
Whoa.
Actually, no, we've switched to a 288, so almost 300 cells. Um, and, uh, and then we'll grow that out for about 4 weeks. Sorry about that. We'll grow them for about 4 weeks, and then transplant them into a tray that holds 50, so they get some more room, and then they will grow usually in the greenhouse for only about a week, because tomatoes are so vigorous that they'll begin to really rock tall and so on. So we try to then, so this will be 5 weeks after seeding, we try to get them into a cooler climate, so what we call either a cold frame or a greenhouse with minimal heat to harden them off. So we try to get them acclimated to sort of the cool nights that we have here until, late June. We have cool nights and warmer days, and so we try to keep them from getting too warm during the day and not too cold at night, but we don't want them to be lush and soft. So that's an important part of it. We call it hardening off.
Yeah.
So you harden off that transplant for a few weeks, hopefully no more than 2. It would be 2 is ideal, and you have what we like to think is a stocky, tough plant, and then we go into the field. And in the field, we've done preparations. Usually, there's a lot of preparation that goes into preparing the bed. So we fertilize in the winter with chicken manure, and we use a lot of wood ash for potassium, and and to raise the pH if it needs it. And then we make beds which have drip irrigation in them, and they're covered with it's not plastic, it's a biodegradable mulch that looks like plastic.
Nice.
And that covers the bed and hopefully doesn't break down for 3 or 4 months, so that they have a chance to really be the dominant plant in the situation before any weeds come along.
Yep.
And we spread a lot of compost between the beds to keep the weeds down, and then we let it sit until those plants are ready, until we get a good forecast. We also you don't want to just say, hey, these plants are ready, and go out and then see that in 3 days you're going to drop to 28 degrees. So we try to wait till we have a proper forecast and then head to the field, and we can use what they call a water wheel to transplant. And it sounds like we're using a machine to plant them, but really it's 2 guys sitting on the back of the machine that do all the planting, and the machine kind of carries the plants and punches a hole in the plastic every 2 feet.
Yep.
And the guys then do everything else. And it has water in the tank too, so that it gives it a little shot of water for that first few days.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
that's the procedure to get them in the field.
Yep.
Then there's
Yep.
a long list of tasks that follow, like steaks and steak pounding and weaving them and so on.
Yep.
Yeah.
What happens if you're planting a massive amount of plants? Well, massive is all relative, but what happens if a customer doesn't take them? What do you do?
Well, we've tried to develop our markets so that we have many different outlets. We try to make many customers happy, but we have, dozens of good customers in addition to our retail store. So we have our retail store and our farmers markets, and we do a lot of CSA boxes. So that takes a good fraction of our crop right there. And then we also, because we grow so many tomatoes, we grow maybe 15 acres, which is a lot for New England. And we also wholesale, and we have a handful of very, very devoted customers. We haven't been left high and dry too often.
Yeah.
And we're trying to develop our ability to maybe process tomatoes into sauce.
Cool.
So that we can handle any unforeseen surpluses.
Or things that aren't ready for the market.
Right. More often than not, we have a shortage, even though we have so many coming in.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Awesome.
Ryan has done a fantastic job really developing all of our markets, various markets.
Well, thanks guys for your time. And if you've got any questions about what it takes to grow tomatoes, feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll look at them there. And if you have any other questions about what it takes to bring produce to market, leave them down there as well and we'll answer them in the next episode. Thanks very much.